The UK government raises around £700 billion from taxes each year. That means that for every £1 generated in the economy, the government collects 32p of that in tax. Under current plans, taxes are due to rise and tax revenues to reach the highest sustained levels since the aftermath of the Second World War. Where does the government get all of this money? How is it planning to raise more in coming years? And how does the UK stack up against other countries? Almost half of tax revenues come from income tax and national insurance contributions, both of which are taxes on income. If you're an employee, this is the money that comes out of your paycheck. The third largest revenue raiser is VAT, a tax on most things we buy. And together, these three big taxes raise 2/3 of total tax revenues. In most other developed countries, these three taxes are also dominant. Alongside VAT, there are a number of other taxes on spending, including some specific taxes on fuel, cigarettes and alcohol, and various environmental levies. The rest of our revenue comes from corporation tax, which is a tax on company profits that are made in the UK, property taxes, including both the council tax that most of us have to pay to live in our homes, and business rates, which is a similar tax on business properties, and a bunch of smaller taxes, including those levied on the value of some assets when they are bought, sold, or passed on. So that's a breakdown of the taxes the government uses to pull in £700 billion each year. If you split the £700 billion tax bill equally across people, it would be equivalent to about £13,000 for each adult in the UK. Of course, the bill isn't split equally, and the exact taxes the government uses and how they are designed determines who is actually being made worse off by the tax system. So, who is actually paying these taxes? This can be tricky to answer. It doesn't matter who hands the money to the government. What really matters is who has ultimately got less money in their pocket. This is sometimes easy to work out, but not always. Take corporation tax. Companies pay tax on their profits, but when you think about it, companies are nothing more than groups of people. A tax on profits can mean lower dividends for shareholders, but it can also mean lower wages for workers or higher prices for customers. So, indirectly, most of us are likely paying corporation tax in some way or another. With income tax, it's easier to see which individuals are paying the tax. Income tax is progressive, meaning that the share of income taken in tax goes up as income goes up. Around 4 in 10 adults in the UK actually pay no income tax at all because they are either not working or their income is too low. In contrast, the top 10% of income tax payers, which is people earning more than around £60,000 per year, pay around 60% of income tax. This is shown in yellow. The top 1%, who are earning over £190,000 a year, pay around 30% of income tax, shown in purple. Of course, income tax is just one tax, and what matters for judging redistribution is all taxes and all benefits. Overall, the tax and benefit system is progressive. Those on the lowest incomes receive more in benefits than they pay in tax, and those with higher incomes pay a higher share of their income in tax. As we look to the future, there is pressure to raise taxes. In the short run, this will come from the COVID crisis, which has pushed up government borrowing. But more broadly, there is pressure coming from an ageing society that demands more and more expensive health and social care, and from a range of policy goals, including the desire to achieve net zero carbon emissions. Under current plans, taxes are due to start rising in the next couple of years. This includes a large planned increase in the rate of corporation tax. Tax revenues are set to rise from 32% of GDP, which is equivalent to saying that the government collects 32p of every £1 generated in the economy, to 35% of GDP. As we consider higher taxes, a key question will be who should pay more and therefore which taxes to use. The design of the tax system has changed a lot over time. Just taking the three big taxes, we now get a lot more from VAT and from national insurance contributions than we did 40 years ago. The overall revenue from income tax has been quite stable over the past 4 decades, but it has become much more concentrated on higher earners. In the last decade, that's been because governments have chosen to raise more income tax from high earners. The yellow bars show the growing share of income tax revenues that have come from the top 10% of income tax payers. How we choose to change taxes in future will have a big effect on how the tax bill is shared out between us. If we do see sustained rises in the UK's overall tax burden, it will be unusual based on recent UK history. the UK hasn't seen sustained taxes above 35% of GDP since the aftermath of the Second World War. But, unlike in the 1950s and 60s, when the UK was a relatively high-tax country, the UK currently raises revenues that are about average in the OECD. Plenty of other countries raise a lot more in tax than the UK, so a move to higher taxes wouldn't make us unusual internationally. What would make us unusual is if we tried to achieve this by only raising taxes on those with higher incomes. If you compare the UK to higher tax countries, then, very broadly, two things stand out. First, the UK raises less overall because it raises less from national insurance contributions than higher tax countries raise from their equivalent social security contributions. In fact, if you look at revenue from all taxes except social security contributions, you see that the UK raises about the same amount as most of the countries that raise more overall. The UK stands out solely because it raises less in social security contributions. Second, higher tax countries differ most from the UK in how they tax middle earners, not high earners. If the UK were to change income tax and national insurance contribution rates to mirror those in place in a higher tax European country, it would lead to higher tax rates for both middle and high earners. But the difference in the tax levy would be larger for the median worker than for one near the top of the distribution. This underlines that how we design taxes and which taxes we choose to increase or decrease have really important effects on how much tax is paid by different types of people. To learn more about the UK tax system and how it affects you, visit www.ifs.org.uk/taxlab.